They looked you in the eye, smiled, and stabbed you in the back. Not once, but repeatedly. You trusted them, and they turned your world upside down. It's time to confront the truth about betrayal. You gave everything, your time, your loyalty, your heart, and in return, they gave you lies, silence, or worse, indifference. Betrayal doesn't always come with a loud crash. Sometimes, it arrives with a soft smile and a slow, calculated withdrawal. You know what it feels like to walk into a room and suddenly feel smaller, not because you changed, but because someone you trusted shifted the ground beneath you. This isn't just about being hurt. It's about being broken by those you never imagined would cause you pain. And it's about what you do after the shattering. Today, we don't sugarcoat. We confront. You're not alone in this. Many carry the weight of unspoken betrayal, but most never do what you're about to do. Face it, dissect it, and rise above it. Betrayal isn't just an act, it's a revelation. It exposes the true nature of those around us and challenges our understanding of trust. In this video, we'll delve into the 3 most unforgivable betrayals in relationships, guided by the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy. Comment below, I choose truth over betrayal. Every man, at some point, has sat alone, staring into the past, wondering how the people he gave the most to were the first to leave, or worse, the ones who twisted the knife. You've been loyal, you've shown up, you've sacrificed, and yet, the coldest wounds often come from the warmest hands. That pain you feel? It's not weakness. It's the shock of a man who expected honor and got games instead. Stoicism teaches us that peace isn't given, it's built. And today, brick by brick, you're going to rebuild your foundation, stronger, sharper, unshakable. Because the world doesn't need more passive men. It needs men who see clearly, act decisively, and refuse to tolerate betrayal, no matter how beautifully it's disguised. If you've ever felt used, lied to, or emotionally drained, this video is your mirror and your roadmap. And by the end, you won't just understand betrayal, you'll know exactly how to rise above it. Number 1, disloyalty. There's a moment every man remembers. Not just the betrayal itself, but the exact second he saw someone he trusted choose themselves at his expense. If you've lived long enough, you've felt that cold shift in the room, the silence that speaks louder than words. In that moment, something inside you changes permanently, not in an explosive way, but like a quiet realization that the version of you who believed in people without proof is gone. And if no one's told you yet, disloyalty isn't an accident, a misunderstanding, or a slip-up. It's a conscious decision. If you don't develop the discipline to see it for what it is, it will continue to sabotage your peace, your confidence, your masculinity, and your future. What most men were never taught is this: loyalty from others only comes after you develop unshakable loyalty to yourself. If you're keeping people in your life who switch sides when you're not winning, or who speak differently about you when you're not around, you're not just tolerating disrespect. You're telling your own soul it doesn't matter. And there's no healing from that until you decide to raise your standards. Not to take revenge, not to prove a point, but because you finally realize that the cost of keeping the wrong people close is far greater than the cost of walking alone. If you think cutting people off is harsh, ask yourself this: what's more brutal, hurting someone's feelings, or living a life where you constantly question the loyalty of those closest to you? Because if someone truly loved you, you wouldn't have to wonder. Loyalty isn't just staying, it's standing with someone, especially when there's nothing to gain. If you're the only loyal one in your relationships, that's not love, that's self-abandonment. And no man can fully step into his purpose while surrounded by people who secretly resent him, compete with him, or only show up when they need something. So check the energy when you share good news. If they can't celebrate you, you've outgrown them. This isn't about becoming cold or paranoid. It's about becoming wise. If you're not yet the kind of man who notices the subtle shifts, their tone when you succeed, their absence when you struggle, or their silence when you shine, start paying attention. The best way to protect yourself from betrayal is to observe before you attach. And when someone shows you they're not for you, you don't need a second sign. That doesn't mean being rude. It means adjusting access. It means stopping the habit of explaining your boundaries. It means refusing to save people who keep jumping into the fire, then blaming you for not pulling them out. If that feels cold, it's only because you've been taught to feel guilty for finally choosing yourself. But loyalty without boundaries isn't loyalty. It's enslavement. And the moment you understand that, everything changes. You stop needing validation. You stop begging to be understood. You begin attracting people who already get it, who show up without reminders, who don't flinch when you're down. If you're wondering where to start, begin by taking inventory. Who pours into your life, and who only takes? Who's loyal to your face but silent in your absence? Who benefits from your wins, but never supports the process? Who smiles at your strength but mocks your struggle? Once you know, you don't need to make a scene, just make a shift. Yes, it'll be uncomfortable. Yes, it'll feel lonely. But that loneliness is temporary. The peace that follows is permanent. To become unshakable, you must stop reacting to betrayal emotionally and start responding to it strategically. Loyalty is tested in silence. If you want loyalty from others, be loyal first. To your values, your standards, your time, and most importantly, your peace. If you've been betrayed, remember, it wasn't your fault for trusting, but it is your responsibility to not repeat the mistake. If you want to stay calm during the next confrontation, and there will be another, stop expecting people to match your heart. Start preparing for the day they don't. How? Stop reacting to words. Start watching behavior. Stay silent when disrespected and make moves instead. Look them in the eyes, not with hate but with the calm confidence of a man who doesn't need closure because he already has clarity. And that clarity comes from a life of discipline, where your word means something, where your loyalty is earned, not given, and where your circle is built, not inherited. If you ever feel the urge to confront someone who betrayed you, ask yourself, what do I gain by explaining myself to someone who already chose disloyalty? Explanation is for those who want to stay. Clarity is for those who are ready to go. If someone shows you where they stand, believe them and move on. Not out of weakness, but because you finally know that peace is louder than drama. And if you want that peace, you must kill the part of you that gives passes to people who wouldn't hesitate to leave you behind. To build emotional strength, learn to stay silent when provoked, to show restraint when insulted, to make moves when doubted, and to keep your power when they expect you to lose it. Because disloyal people don't just betray you, they feed off your reaction. And the most painful truth you'll ever face is that not everyone who hurt you regrets it. Some are watching, hoping you'll still come back. Don't give them that satisfaction. Not if you want to protect your energy, guard your focus, and reserve your loyalty only for those who've proven they deserve it. If you're still asking where to begin, start here. Define what loyalty means to you. Live by it, and most importantly, require it in return. Number 2, deception. There's a kind of betrayal that doesn't stab you in the back all at once, but cuts you slowly with a smile. It's not the blow that hits hardest. It's the one you didn't see coming, the one delivered while they looked you in the eyes. Deception is exactly that. Not a one-time lie, not just cheating or a broken promise, but a pattern of manipulation carefully wrapped in good intentions. If you're a man who's ever been lied to by someone you trusted, be it a partner, a friend, or a family member, you know the pain doesn't come from the lie itself. It comes from the realization that someone saw your trust as a tool, a weapon even, to get what they wanted, and didn't think twice about using it against you. It's the moment you realize she didn't just hide something from you. She studied your blind spots, used your love to shield her secrets, and fed you half-truths and emotional detours to keep you distracted while she did the very thing you feared. Whether it was texting someone behind your back, telling others things about you she'd never say to your face, or building a secret world where you didn't exist. And while society might try to tell you to forgive, to move on, to understand her perspective, what they won't tell you is that deception rewires your entire sense of reality. If you don't confront that damage and rebuild it deliberately, you'll start to question your own perception of truth. That's how you lose yourself, when you begin second-guessing what you saw, heard, and felt, because someone was skilled enough to lie without flinching. The biggest mistake a man makes after being deceived is assuming closure means getting the truth. But sometimes, the truth was already in what you felt in your gut the first time. You just needed the courage to listen. The only way to break free from the psychological grip of a liar is to stop giving them the benefit of the doubt once their actions have already proven the truth. The most dangerous liar isn't the one who tells big lies, but the one who tells just enough truth to keep you confused. The one who gaslights your memory with phrases like, "You're overreacting," or "I didn't mean it like that." The one who makes you feel guilty for asking questions, all while hiding behind a mask of fake transparency. You know the kind, the friend who laughs with you while planting seeds of doubt in others. The woman who smiles during dinner while texting someone else goodnight. The family member who hugs you in public but calls you a failure behind your back. If you're not paying attention, these people can convince you that silence is peace and confusion is clarity. And that's where your power disappears. When you start doubting yourself because someone keeps moving the truth just out of reach. If you want to escape the trap of deception, the first step is this: believe patterns, not words. Words are the easiest part of the lie, but patterns don't lie. When someone shows you a habit of inconsistency, secrecy, or blurred stories, that's your signal. You don't need to catch them red-handed, collect screenshots, or interrogate their friends, because by the time you're doing all that, you've already lost your peace and given them too much power. A man rooted in strength doesn't chase lies. He removes liars, not with aggression, but with indifference, not with confrontation, but with quiet clarity. This doesn't mean you shut yourself off from everyone or become emotionally unavailable. It means you learn to guard your inner circle like it's your life, because it is. If you've ever been in a relationship where the other person always had just enough explanation to stay out of guilt, but never enough honesty to build real trust, you know how soul-draining that becomes. And it's not just emotional damage. It's mental paralysis. You spend hours replaying conversations, trying to piece together what was real and what was not. This obsession with understanding a liar is what keeps you stuck. Because the truth is, you'll never understand why someone lied to you unless you share their values. And if you're a man who values loyalty, consistency, and truth, you'll always be confused by someone who sees honesty as optional and deception as a survival tactic. So stop trying to figure them out and start figuring out your next move. Here's how. First, set a rule for yourself. When someone lies to you about something small, assume they're capable of lying about something big. Not because you're paranoid, but because self-respect demands that you don't reward dishonesty with continued access. Second, learn to recognize covert deception. Not all lies are spoken. Some are hidden in withheld information, redirected questions, over-explaining, inconsistent timelines, guilt trips, and the constant need for validation. If you ask simple questions and are made to feel like the bad guy for seeking clarity, understand that's not love. That's manipulation. Third, build a mindset where peace is your baseline. No matter how attractive someone is, how long the history, or how much potential they have, never compromise truth for comfort. The cost of that comfort is always clarity, and a man who lives without clarity is always one step away from losing everything. His goals, discipline, emotional edge, and even his sanity. If you've been there, you know how easy it is to fall into the trap of giving one more chance, and then another. Before you know it, you're tolerating things you once said you'd never accept. Not because you're weak, but because deception is slow, subtle, and calculated. The longer you stay, the more it rewrites your boundaries until you forget what real love, loyalty, and peace even feel like. So if you're reading this and thinking about someone who's lied to you repeatedly, ask yourself, why do I keep allowing them access? What am I afraid to lose? And is that fear bigger than the damage they're doing to my spirit? If the answer is no, then you know what you need to do. And when you finally walk away from a liar, understand that they'll try to rewrite the story, paint you as cold or unforgiving. They'll say you changed. Let them talk. Because those who lie can't survive in environments of truth. The more honest you become about what you saw, what you felt, and what you won't allow anymore, the more you'll attract people who have nothing to hide and everything to build. If you want to heal from deception, don't just cut them off. Cut off the version of you that tolerated it. The part of you that wanted to believe the story, even when the facts didn't align. In its place, build a man who doesn't need constant reassurance, who doesn't depend on words, who watches actions, who creates space between stimulus and response. A man who walks away when his peace is violated, not because he's angry, but because he knows his peace is too expensive to trade for cheap lies. If you've ever wondered how to tell if someone is deceiving you, pay attention to what they do when they think you're not watching, because that's who they really are. And you owe it to yourself to believe what you see, not just what you're told. Because the man who sees but still stays becomes a partner in his own betrayal. And the world doesn't feel sorry for that man. It uses him, drains him, and replaces him. So don't be that man. Be the one who walks in truth even when it's uncomfortable, who trusts his gut even when it doesn't come with proof, who chooses to build a life where honesty isn't requested, it's required. Number 3, emotional manipulation. There's a kind of betrayal that doesn't show up as a lie or a physical act. It shows up in tone, in silence, in strategic tears, and carefully timed guilt trips. It doesn't hurt all at once. It drains you slowly over weeks, months, sometimes years. One day, you wake up and realize you've been loving someone who's been training you to doubt yourself, all while smiling at you from across the room. Emotional manipulation isn't always loud. It doesn't come with shouting or obvious abuse. It often arrives in the soft, persuasive language of someone claiming to do everything for your own good, while subtly making you question your intentions, your reactions, and your instincts. If you've ever been in a relationship where the other person flipped the script every time you brought up a problem, where the issue suddenly became your tone, your timing, your attitude, you felt the crushing weight of manipulation disguised as communication. It's one of the most disorienting experiences a man can go through. Because when you're physically strong but emotionally confused, it feels like your strength has no outlet. Like you're fighting a battle you can't win, because the rules change every time you speak. One of the cruelest parts of emotional manipulation is its precision. The manipulator studies your insecurities, learns your triggers, and pushes buttons not to destroy you, but to control you. They build a reality where they're always the victim and you're always on trial. You find yourself constantly apologizing just to keep the peace, walking on eggshells in your own life just to avoid another emotional ambush. If you've been there, you know what it's like to say sorry for things you didn't do, to justify boundaries that shouldn't need defending, to stay silent just to avoid another endless conversation where nothing is solved and everything is twisted. This isn't love. It's warfare disguised as affection. A form of control so covert that you begin to feel guilty just for sensing something is wrong. And the most dangerous part is how normalized it becomes. How slowly you begin to shrink, accepting their definitions of your motives, their version of events, their reinterpretation of your past behavior. And if you don't stop it early, you'll eventually lose your ability to trust your own emotions, your memories, your moral compass. Wondering what this looks like in real life? Picture this. You're dating someone who constantly compares you to their ex, who makes you feel like you're never doing enough, who shuts down when you try to have real conversations and then tells you you're too intense or you're too sensitive. Someone who claims they're always the one trying, but somehow you're always the one apologizing. They may never raise their voice or lay a hand on you, but the psychological damage runs deep, because it convinces you that your feelings are the problem, not the dynamic. The way out starts with a brutal realization. If someone constantly makes you feel like the villain in your own life, you're not in love. You're in a psychological cage. And the first step toward freedom is reclaiming your right to interpret your own reality, to believe what you saw, to feel what you feel without shame, to understand that discomfort isn't always your fault. It's often just the emotional smoke from someone else's manipulative fire. If you're dealing with someone who can cry on command, who brings up their trauma the moment they're confronted, who accuses you of being ungrateful when you express a boundary, you're not in a relationship. You're in a performance. And you're the supporting actor in a story where they must always be the hero or the victim, never the villain. And what makes this betrayal even more complex is that manipulators often aren't evil caricatures. They're wounded, clever, sometimes even charming, but their charm is a mask. The moment you stop playing your role, they panic, they lash out, they accuse, they promise to change. And that's when you must stay centered. The moment you begin to pull away is when the manipulation intensifies. Not out of love, but out of fear. fear of losing control over someone they've worked hard to condition. This is where most men fail, not because they're weak, but because they've been taught that strength means staying, that fighting for love means sacrificing your peace. But real strength is knowing when to walk away from something slowly killing your spirit. Strength is setting boundaries that don't need to be explained. Strength is choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, solitude over manipulation. To develop that strength, start with self-awareness. After every major interaction, write down how you feel. Look for patterns. Ask yourself how many times you've apologized just for expressing yourself. How often your feelings were dismissed or flipped back onto you. Then ask this: would you want someone you love to be treated this way? If the answer is no, why accept it for yourself? The second step is emotional detachment. Not coldness, but clarity. The ability to love and still choose distance. To care without letting that care override your dignity. Manipulators feed on empathy, guilt, and your desire to be the good guy. You have to starve that dynamic by removing its fuel. Respond with calm truth, not emotional justification. Yes, they'll accuse you of being heartless, of changing, of not being who you used to be. And that's exactly the point. You're not. You've grown. And anyone who needs you to stay small, confused, and emotionally dependent doesn't love you. They love the version of you they can control. If you want to heal from emotional manipulation, it's not just about cutting ties. It's about cutting the internal wiring that made you susceptible in the first place. That means revisiting where you learned to equate love with walking on eggshells, where you accepted being misunderstood as part of the deal. Then, build your emotional fortress. Not a wall that blocks love, but standards that keep manipulation out. Surround yourself with people who hold space for your truth. People who don't need you to shrink for them to feel strong, who challenge you without belittling you, who apologize when wrong without needing to be begged. That starts with how you treat yourself. Do you give yourself permission to feel, to pause, to walk away? Or do you bully yourself into staying because you think endurance equals virtue? The truth is, endurance is only a virtue when the pain serves a purpose. But enduring manipulation only serves the manipulator. If you've ever left a conversation more confused than when it began, more ashamed than when you walked in, that's your signal. Not to try harder, not to explain more clearly, but to exit gracefully and protect the version of you that still believes in truth. Because no one has the right to twist your reality in the name of love. And remember this: when someone makes you feel guilty for having needs, that's manipulation. When they change the subject every time accountability is mentioned, that's manipulation. When they only show affection after you break down, that's manipulation. When they turn every disagreement into a referendum on your character, that is manipulation. And you don't fix that by loving them harder. You fix it by loving yourself enough to walk away. Once you do that, once you break the cycle, you'll never fall for it again, because you'll know what peace feels like. And once a man knows peace, he never chases chaos dressed as love again. If you've made it this far, you're not just a man watching a video. You're a man waking up, starting to see clearly, to feel everything in your gut that you've ignored for too long. And I want you to sit with this truth. You weren't weak for trusting. You weren't stupid for staying. You weren't blind for believing. You had heart. You were loyal. You loved fully. And now, you're wise enough to never let yourself be betrayed the same way again. that evolution is the most powerful revenge. Not the loud, vengeful kind, but the quiet kind that builds a life so solid, so peaceful, so grounded in truth, that manipulation, deception, and disloyalty can't survive in your presence. I know you've been through more than you talk about. I know you've stayed silent about betrayals that shattered you because you were told real men don't talk about pain. But that lie ends here. Because healing begins when you stop protecting the people who broke you and start protecting the version of yourself that deserves better. So if you're ready to reclaim your peace, to protect your spirit, to rebuild your confidence, not from ego, but from clarity, then comment right now. Never again. Say it. Type it. Claim it. Let it be the line in the sand where your old self ends and your new life begins.